Good afternoon. Firstly, I would like to congratulate the Korean Society of Child Welfare and my colleagues from the Korean Committee for UNICEF for organizing this forum. It is important to celebrate what has been achieved on the protection, realization and promotion of child rights, but it's also key to look forward on what is impacting the rights of children in the next generation. Secondly, I would like to sincerely thank the co-hosts for inviting me to address you on how the European Union developed and recently adopted a strategy on the rights of the child. My aim is to share with you some insights on why it was required, how the processes started and continued until it was adopted. I will also be commenting on the role of UNICEF and other child rights organizations. But in particular, I would like to tell you a little bit of a story on how children participated in this process. Before that, allow me to say a few words on UNICEF. The UN Fund for Children works in 190 countries and territories to save children's lives, to defend their rights, and to help them fulfill their potential from early childhood through adolescence. It is also the world's largest providers of vaccines for developing countries, and UNICEF supports child health and nutrition, water, sanitation, quality basic education for all boys and girls, and the protection of children from violence. As a global authority, UNICEF is able to influence decision makers at the global level and turn the most innovative ideas into reality. I have the honor to work for UNICEF in our office in Brussels that covers our partnership with the European Union, and hence I was very close to what happened on the EU strategy on the rights of the child. For the past 3 decades, since the adoption of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the world has made historic gains for children. And in fact, the European Union has played a significant role in achieving this progress. The EU has helped to transform children's lives. It has inspired legislative changes to better protect children. It has developed policies. It has funded actions, both within and outside of the European Union. We can say that progress has been incredible. But challenges to the realization of all rights for all children everywhere, especially the most vulnerable ones, remain. There are still disparities on the basis of poverty, ethnic groups, origin, gender, place of birth, religion, and that persists and affects children's access to basic services and potential, including within the EU. Global phenomena like economic crisis, climate change, and migration often impact children first and foremost. Outside of Europe, despite progress, the situation is still dire for many children who continue to face extreme poverty, discrimination, and inequality. The number of children living in conflict settings is increasing, and they are increasingly becoming targets of war. New challenges and opportunities were and are emerging. Children and new technologies, from artificial intelligence to online dangers for life-saving innovations and social media, impact of climate change on children and their role as agents of change, children migration, and more the participation of adolescents and young people in decisions that affect their lives. Crucially, health, social, and economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic are something that we need to take into account to look towards the future. Therefore, there was a pressing need to refresh the relevance and urgency around implementing the Convention of the Rights of the Child for the 21st century. It was critical that children's rights become part of the political agenda of the European Union and were made an integral part of EU policies and practice in a holistic and comprehensive way. This new EU framework on child rights, what it was becoming the EU strategy on the rights of the child, was a unique opportunity to be ready for the new challenges and opportunities emerging in the 21st century, and in line with the ambitions of the Sustainable Development Goals. We know that without the right policies and actions, the realization of all rights for all children everywhere, especially the most vulnerable ones, and the SDGs will never become a reality. So let me tell you a bit on how was the process of developing this strategy. UNICEF and all child rights organizations from the Child Rights Action Group in Brussels have been asking for several years to have a systematic and coherent approach to promote and defend children's rights inside and outside Europe that is in line with the Convention and Agenda 2030. We made it one of the calls of the 2019 European Parliament elections, where we launched a child manifesto and a Vote for Children campaign, asking candidates of the European Parliament to put children's rights at the heart of the EU. More than 100 members of the European Parliament committed to break the cycles of inequality, to invest in children and to listen to children's voices. In fact, as a result of this campaign, 1 in 7 members of the European Parliament is now a child rights champion. As you can imagine, ahead of the European elections, we wanted to highlight the importance of child participation in decisions affecting their life, as recollected in Article 12 of the Convention of the Rights of the Child. Children and young people have a key stake in Europe's future, not only because it's their future that is affected by today's decision, but also because involving them in decision-making makes them understand the democratic values and fundamental freedoms which underpin the European project. They are voters of tomorrow and change makers of today. So what could be better than walking the talk? Then UNICEF at Eurochild launched an online opinion poll, a survey, inviting children and young people to share their views on what was the Europe they would like to see, what was the Europe they want. So this campaign, called Europe Kids Want, gathering children's and young people's experience on family life, school, society, and the thoughts about Europe. All these efforts were done, and almost 20,000 children and young people from over 48 countries in Europe responded to this poll. The findings were shared in a final report that was aiming at supporting the decision-making of politicians to understand what were the views of children on key issues affecting them. Therefore, I'm pleased to share a short video that summarizes the finding of this poll of Europe Kids Want.
Yes, I do think my opinion is being heard. I don't know if my opinion is always being used.
No, not really, just by my parents.
From most of them, yes, but not in a national level.
We are often listened to, but never truly heard.
No, not real.
Sometimes when I come across in the news, for example, a change in a school system, I think about, wait, did I get a say in this? I don't think so.
Following the European Parliament elections of 2019, the then appointed President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, recognized the importance of updating and invigorating EU's work on child rights. Then, she included this initiative in her program of the European Commission for the period between 2019 and 2024. She appointed the Vice President of the European Commission, Dubravka Šuica, to lead and coordinate the task to develop a comprehensive child rights strategy in coordination with other relevant commissioners who were dealing with other topics like crisis management, international partnerships, justice, home affairs. So then, the train to develop an EU strategy on the rights of the child left the station. In preparing for the new EU strategy, the European Commission decided to set a new standard by inviting children living in Europe and beyond to share their views and influence on how the strategy should be shaped and what topics should be prioritized. To this end, the European Commission called on 5 child rights organizations, Child Fund Alliance, Eurochild, Save the Children, UNICEF and World Vision, to facilitate consultations with children across Europe and beyond, based on the collective experience of working with millions of children worldwide. In the own words of Vice President Switzer, she said, "This consultation with children is a game changer for us at the European Commission and an important step towards greater child participation. Children are experts in the matters that concern them, and this consultation proves once again that children are already important actors in the here and now. Our role is to enable and empower all of them to continue blazing the trail now on the way to becoming tomorrow's leaders. Therefore, participation, equality and inclusion are the main principles for both the EU strategy of the rights of the child and, as well, for the Child Guarantee in 2021. We must and will ensure that all children have an equal start in life and thrive in this world, free from fear and want." So, UNICEF, with child rights organizations, we launched an online survey and consultation with children. The perspectives and priorities of more than 10,000 children and young people between 11 and 17 years old from within Europe, but also outside, who expressed their views powerful. And these surveys, fundings were collected into a report. Of course, it wasn't easy. We faced the challenges of COVID-19 restrictions. At that time, many schools were either closed or just online, but there was a joint effort at regional and national level. I must say that it was an historic report because it's the first time that so many children and young people can directly influence and shape EU policy. It was also a crucial time as children were facing the psychological and practical impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, having to adjust to a new reality for years to come. As it was the future, their opinions needed to shine through in decisions that were being taken by the European Union. Considering our mandate on child rights, we were very much engaged, as you can imagine, in the process of developing this new strategy. We work hand in hand with child rights organizations, not only in the consultation with children, but also we develop a joint position paper that was presenting the key principles and priorities. And also we develop a call to action on external dimension. But specifically, we develop a UNICEF briefing call towards an EU strategy on the rights of the child, addressing the challenges of the 21st century. And this was a briefing that included an analysis, but also had recommendations focusing on some of the most pressing priorities of our time. The impact of climate change on children, children and new technologies, mental health, and children in migration. So how the EU was responding to these challenges will determine the future of children. So we focus our efforts on that. Let me unfold a little bit these challenges. So climate change is a child rights crisis. Children are the least responsible for climate change, yet they are bearing the greatest burden of its impact and will continue to do so in the future. While climate change poses universal threats, tackling it is also imperative for ensuring equity for the most vulnerable, marginalized and poorest groups, particularly in developing countries, which are often the most affected and the least able to recover. Whether directly through extreme weather events, air, soil or water pollution, or indirectly through the impact on poverty, food security and nutrition, access to schools or wash services, the rights of children are threatened in the short and long term by the climate crisis. Some figures to illustrate this impact are 160 million of children live in high drought severity zones. At the same time, 5 million children live in extremely high flood occurrence zones. Approximately 90% of climate-related health effects will be borne by children under 5 years of age. And finally, environmental risks account for 1 out of 4 children's deaths. We called, as UNICEF, for the EU strategy on the rights of the child to address 3 main points regarding climate change, to put children at the heart of EU climate and environmental strategies and action plans. So, for example, explicitly integrating child rights across the climate and environmental policies that were being developed to implement the European Green Deal. Second, build climate resilient services and systems to protect children from impacts. For example, building resilience and disaster preparedness directly into the social sectors. What about climate smart schools or climate smart health centers, WASH, nutrition, and social protection? And then the third call that we had for the European Union is to reduce emissions and pollution and promote sustainable energy investments to allow children to grow up in a healthy environment in and outside Europe. And finally, but not the least important, is empower children as agents of change. So that was the first block on climate change. The second one was about the digital transition, protecting children's rights online. From digital learning and artificial intelligence to life-saving innovations and social media, the digital evolution is shaping children's lives in a very profound ways. Children are early adopters and frequently users of the internet, and it can be really positive for playing, for school-related work, for accessing information, for participation. But it's also true that for many children, connectivity is still not a reality. In many countries as well, the education systems are not providing the digital skills that the children need to become engaged, to be informed, and to be productive citizens. On top of that, online learning becomes more widespread and critical to the continuity of education, but it remains an inaccessible service for many children. And we can see the implications and the impact regarding the inequity that is being produced or exacerbating of the digital divide due to the COVID crisis. At the same time, children's engagement in online platforms has also increased the risk to be exposed to inappropriate, harmful, and violent content, and also to online predators. Digital skills and literacy are critical, and as we said, digital can present a lot of opportunities, but also some of the challenges. So we need to protect children online. In particular, sexual violence against children online is increasing, and we've seen that due to the COVID-19. The advance of new technologies such as artificial intelligence that we mentioned before is critical because it powers automatic decisions. It will affect digital lives in new ways. Not only on what they will see online, but also enabling access to education opportunities, to jobs, to health insurance and other benefits. Therefore, UNICEF was calling on the EU strategy 4 main recommendations. First, bring down the barriers everywhere to digital access for children, particularly for girls. Second, promote digital skills and literacy for all children inside and outside the EU. Third, protect children from harm online. Fourth, safeguard children's privacy and identity online. And fifth, promote ethical business standards and practices. The third big challenge that we were addressing in this briefing was about mental health, redefining child resilience. Mental health is our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, how we act, and it determines our ability to handle stress and make certain choices. It is very important at every stage, from childhood to adulthood, and while mental health is a global issue, it remains very stigmatized and underfunded in any system. Poor mental health in childhood and adolescence prevents children from fulfilling their rights and reaching their true potential. We have seen and we have observed that mental health disorders among under 18 years old have been rising steadily over the past 30 years. WHO estimated that is the third leading cause of death for adolescents between 15 and 19 years old. And more than 90% of adolescent suicides in 2016 were in low and middle income countries. This is really a crisis that we need to address. In a recent survey with young people across the European Union, almost 1 in 5 responded that they identified as suffering from mental health problems or symptoms such as depression or anxiety. So we were calling on the EU strategy to take a number of measures. The first one was to invest in coordinated mental health and psychosocial support services across Europe and beyond. Second, to prevent poor mental health within the family, support parenting. The third one was to promote resilience and recovery in the community. And now I'm coming to the last pillar of the strategy recommendations that we were providing. This was in relation to management of asylum and migration, protecting children on the move. As we know, migration and asylum policies fail when they are blind to children's needs and do not invest in safeguards, procedures, and capacities that address their vulnerabilities and leverage their potential. An effective and efficient asylum and migration system is one that protects the rights of every child, regardless on how and why they have arrived. A child is a child at all times. So in terms of numbers, in terms of impact, in terms of how the situation is worldwide, at least 1 in 2 of those who are forcibly displaced around the world is a child. 1 in 4 new arrivals and 1 in 3 asylum seekers in the EU is a child. Family reunification drives 40% of regular migration to the OECD countries. And the figures I was mentioning is before the Ukraine war. So we were calling at that point of time to the EU strategy to take a number of actions to protect children in border and asylum procedures. Children should be always being prioritized. The second one is providing children with adequate reception conditions, care and protection. The third one is prohibiting immigration detention for children, and definitely providing a special support for unaccompanied and separate children. We also were asking to have on policies of return and reintegration child-sensitive measures. We also were asking for protecting children in countries of origin and along the migratory routes, establishing safe and legal pathways, improving data and evidence collection on refugee and migrant children.
We don't want to keep growing up in a society where profit is more important than helping one another. Children want to be heard.
وقت بلش الحرب كان عمري 5 سنين، وصار القصف يضرب علينا وما نستجير نطلع لبرا نلعب أو من شدة القصف.
Pentru mine, bullying-ul reprezintă un act de violență fizică, psihică sau verbală. Dar trebuie să înțelegem că astfel de situații sunt din ce în ce mai întâlnite în ziua de astăzi, iar acest lucru nu poate fi decât unul îngrijorător.
Children don't just want to survive, they want to live, they want to thrive. We want not to be judged by our age, our sexuality, our ethnicity, but by the beauty of our dreams.
Hardly a day passed without a child being abused. Children given out for child labor are seen in the streets, having no place to lay their heads. It is my heart desire that all this will come to an end and will achieve a world free of violence and harm to children. Thank you.
So finally, on the 24th of March of 2021, the EU Strategy of the Rights of the Child, along with the European Child Warranty, was adopted by the European Commission. Concerning the procedures of the EU, the strategy was supported as well by the European Parliament with a resolution and is currently under discussion between the EU member states for Council conclusions, which are expected in early June under the steer of the EU French presidency. On the operationalization part, the European Commission has started to implement the actions that were identified in the strategy and that they are under the direct responsibility. As UNICEF and child rights community, we are motivating all the 27 member states of the European Union to adopt Council conclusions. UNICEF has an ongoing campaign on social media with over 12 UNICEF committees in Europe engaging in a child rights strategy hashtag. We are also engaged in the implementation. So for example, we are already elaborating and updating an online training tool of a toolkit on child rights that would support the mainstreaming of those rights in any action of the EU, both in policies and interventions. I can say that it has been a journey to make the case, to argue and bring evidence on why the EU required a new strategy on the rights of the child and what were the new challenges to be addressed. I must say that it was a joint effort by many partners, by many champions, but we can happily say that we succeeded. We sincerely hope that the EU will live up to the expectations, and we will partner with them in this effort for every child, everywhere. Thank you very much for your time.